Now, before we start to do the detailing using the floaters, I'm going to do a little bit more material and rendering setup so that we don't have to do that afterwards and everything. So I'm just going to bring in my preset, and then I'm just going to go to environments, and I'm going to just grab one of my favorite outdoor environments, this one, and you just double click it and it's applied. And now if we do a preview render, there we go, and set this to linear if you want a bit darker. It's usually a bit too dark with the gamma of 1 that I have set on the image, but still already looks a bit nicer. But this is enough for our basic rendering we're going to do right now while we're working on it. But I also want to do some material setup, so I'm going to go into our Metal 1 material that we have here, and I'm going to make a instance, and then I'm going to duplicate that one so I have 2 instances. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create like a quick little system for quickly changing the size of the round edge shader. So I'm just going to create a group like this. Actually, I can delete one of these. So, and I'm just gonna use a polygon tag for this. And the way Modo works is that, so this one has a material tag, Metal 1, which is the name of the material. So everything that has this material tag will, have this on it. It kind of works like Photoshop's layers. So if you put something on top without tags, it will just override everything. So for example, if we take this base material and we put it on top, it will like override everything. Like this. But so the things we have in here are only affecting the what has this material tag. But what we want to do is to have subgroups inside the material, because it's quick to tag things. So what I have is that I have a little pop-up, which is rather easy to use. I just have it like this, and it can do a whole bunch of things. So for example, I put it to smooth large. That's just a tag that I prepared, which we can put here. Or we should be able to put it here. Oh right, it's set to material. Yeah, part. Selection set, yeah. Large. So now if we change this one to be, for example, another color, then whatever was in here will just get that color. But we don't want that, so because we want it to have the same color, we just want to change the round edge width. So right now it's way too big on most things, so I'm just going to keep it at 10 millimeters, but I'm going to actually make it smaller here and put it to 5 millimeter. But since it's this one is an instance, then it has updated the value as well. So the values that you edit will break their inheritance. So you have these dots here that show that they are inheriting from the instance master here. So I'm just going to duplicate this one here, and I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to retag this one because it's not supposed to be large. Put it as small, and just change this tag to small. I'll set that to a small value, like 1 millimeter. Probably want to make this base one smaller, like 3 millimeters, and maybe 7 millimeters for this one. We'll see. We can fiddle with those values whenever we want. So now we have a quick basic setup where we can change things. So we, for example, something with very tight details like this one here. Put this one to small, this one is small, and then we put this one as large. You can look at the difference. So you can see here, this one has way tighter highlights, while this one has much wider highlights. Let's go to the other side. Obviously, yeah, you can see here it's very tight, versus this one has much wider highlights. I actually think maybe we overdid it, made them too small. Let's crank this one up to 6 millimeters, and then increase this one to 15 millimeters, the smaller one to 2 millimeters. Okay, so now the render has been on a bit longer. I think that, you know, probably crank them up even more. I think I was actually right from the beginning with my values. So, but I usually use like 3 values because it's a good compromise, pretty much. So it's something like that might work. I could have more values, but normally I just don't care enough. So something like this. Now we have a little bit better setup to see everything. Another trick that you can do to see which polygons are tagged is that you can just add a very simple thing. It's just a constant, and you put it in one of these folders, or here for example, and you know, you can make them just almost the same color, but you know, a little off color like this maybe, and then you just put the opacity like 1%, because then it will still read perfectly well in the viewport. So I'm just gonna duplicate this one and just put it here, and then put this one to another color. Just something like this, so we can tell them apart while we're tagging things. Since we set the opacity, set it to 0, you can't see them, so that's why I put them to 1%. Like this. So this way they won't show up in the renders. It will just be, you know, 1% opacity, so it's so subtle you can't actually see anything. So now that we have set those things up, we can tag these ones, because all of these will most likely be, you know, very small. So we don't want the rounded shader to kick in too much. So I'm just gonna tag that one. And you can tag things manually via the menu up here. You can just assign selection set, for example. That way you can have tags. So that's how you normally would do it, but I just put them on hotkeys instead, so I don't have to do it manually all the time. So these should all be pretty small, so might as well tag them like that. So now it's time to detail. So I'm just going to start with grabbing this one, for example, here, pasting it here. And since I'm gonna do several of these at once, you know, or I'm gonna do several booleans, I'm just gonna copy paste them first. This for running the boolean. Let's grab some of these as well. Don't know if this one will fit here though. Can put it here. So basically what I will be doing now is mostly just small modeling, things like beveling and using using the booleans a lot. So, and just trying to find, you know, some nice ways to put in details without cluttering it too much. For example, this one here clearly needs some more detail. So quite often when I'm doing these really quick and sloppy modeling things is that I often, even in places where I could have used traditional modeling, I'm using booleans. Then the result is a lot more sloppy than it would normally be, but since it's, you know, just so quick, it doesn't really matter, so I don't have to care. And places like here, for example, I just deselect these edges because if I would bevel those edges, I would get some more like illegal polygons and problems. So now I just end up with even more messed up topology, but at least I don't have to deal with manually correcting polygons. Okay, maybe grab some of these here. Of symmetry. So there's like a limit to how much you can abuse the booleans before you get n-gons that are just like too many polygons, or like too many verts in one polygon, and you know starts to have a problem with the triangulation. But you can push it pretty far without it breaking. I do that regularly. After a while you kind of learn when it will break, so I put in extra edges before I boolean, you know, on these more extreme cases, but most of the time it's fine. Let's see. That. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, but I do want to just handle some of the more, you know, easy wins, just so it looks a bit better, and there's a bit more geometry to play with when we are reaching, you know, the final stage, because we have texture this a lot with just shader procedural stuff, and then the more information there is to play with, like geometry wise, the easier it's gonna be. The cleaner the model, the more handcrafting you have to do for it to look good. So we can probably actually set good use for this. This is probably going to break things a bit, smoothing and so on, a little bit. Pretend like I didn't see anything. There. The next method I'm going to use to quickly place details is something that works a little bit like this. Which is very, very convenient. and it's once again one of Seneca scripts that is very, very handy, and it's called rotate to or unrotate. So if you have downloaded and installed these scripts, it's you can just run it like this: rotate to or unrotate. And it basically takes, I can grab something else here as well. It takes your polygon selection and it uses your edge selection as the bottom. So that's why I leave these open-ended like this. So it takes that and it moves it to wherever your mouse is. And if you add the command duplicate as well, you get a copy of your original mesh, so you can just keep on going like this. Extremely convenient. So, and the reason why I have built my rivets with the side open like this is that I do a select under mouse, and then I convert or I can select the boundary edges of this, so I instantly get this. So I can just grab any of these like that and then quickly place them, for example like that. And now we can do this with any of our little floating decals or like floaters here. So for example, we can add some, very quickly add very fine detail like this. So I usually use this a lot to place, rivets and screws, and even when you're feeling a bit more cheaty, you use it for things like indentations like this. This is also always a little bit of a gamble. Sometimes it does that because it doesn't know which side is up and which side is down, and then you can actually solve that by just beveling this one in a little bit. That. Let's see, I was going to put it here, yeah. And then that usually helps it figure out. So now it looks like holes. So I'm just gonna, for example, here on the inside, I wanted to place some. Add some here. Actually, also I wanted to just copy paste this one here. I mean, we're not going to look at this one when it's open that much, but I know it's there, so I want to. Yeah, that. Cool. Of course, these are not in the right layer, so they don't animate correctly. But this is a great way of adding detail. Add some screws. So it's going to jump back to the model tab. See some places that make sense, or in my head, in my non-engineer head. So for example here, where I prepared earlier, just place some screws real quick. Right. Works pretty well on on the wood. For example, we wanted to make some holes in the wood with floaters. We do that. I totally abuse them like all the time. Doesn't matter what it's for, I always use floaters. It's just such a convenient way of modeling. So let's see if we can grab one of these again. Just assign the wood material to it. This one a bit bigger. Something to break it up.